found that the companies in question had held meetings which allocated distribution areas amongst themselves. They also agreed to increase the price of bread, positively impacting on their profits. The Competition Commission fined the said companies, but Black Sash and the other parties seeking class action want these companies to go further and bring their books for the period in question to show how much profit was made and thereafter make payments into a trust fund to be used for poverty alleviation. Following 2 dismissals, the Supreme Court has granted the group leave to appeal.
The right to food is particularly important because we've heard from Stats SA that in the context of South Africa, there is over 30% of households who go to bed without food. And when government is using the grants to provide to the people, and when we know that social grants are used largely to buy food, we think that companies cannot be let off the hook by artificially increasing the price of bread.
South Africa engages in trade with a lot of countries in the world. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation works within the United Nations framework in dealing with business and human rights.
The protection in the areas of labor, violations of labor rights, especially employing children, is a gap that needs to be filled. Also in the areas of dumping of toxic waste in the third world, and as well as environmental rights.
Amnesty International has a global presence and reputation protecting human rights.
The case of the oil exploration and exploitation and the devastation that oil spills have caused to the communities in the Niger Delta, in particular the case of Shell and Shell activities in Nigeria. We have a case in India on the operations of a company, UK-based company called Vedanta, and its impacts on indigenous people's rights in the land where it operates. And we have an ongoing, very emblematic case of Bhopal in India and the explosion of gas that killed thousands of people overnight.
Achieving a universal template for international business law is an ambitious project. The South African Institute for Advanced Constitutional, Public, Human Rights and International Law, SIFAC, based at the University of Johannesburg, with the support of the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung Foundation, says through such meetings the concept can be simplified.
Increasingly, people have recognized that it's insufficient to focus on the state alone. And so we have to have a look at what can business do and what are the impacts that business has on fundamental rights. So a number of questions that we're dealing with in this conference relate, for example, should business just as a matter of being a good citizen realize or avoid harming fundamental rights of people? Or should the business as a matter of legal obligation be required to ensure that they don't violate the rights of people? Okay, and some other questions relate to, or should businesses only be required to avoid harming rights, or do they have an active role to play in helping realize the rights of people in society? Does a pharmaceutical company, for example, have an active role to play in making drugs accessible to people who can't afford them?
In trying to decipher this maze, business has come up with titles such as the sustainability model or social responsibility. Documents generated from this meeting will be used to continue the discussion on how business can make sure its operations do not harm the human rights of those it serves. For Morning Live, I'm Desiree Chauke.